Hi, everybody. It's Marlene with Eerie News, and the date is March 15th, 2022. And here's about 30 minutes worth of weird and unusual. And I'm going to start it off with this one is right up there. Um, Man credits affair with AI girlfriend for saving his marriage. I think it would crush her to know that I had to turn to an AI. What can I say? But somehow I'm not surprised that this happened. Okay, this is from the Futurism site. Polyamory is one thing, but a man who claims that a dalliance with an AI girlfriend saved his marriage to his flesh and blood wife is certainly another. In an interview with the UK-based Sky News, a Cleveland man describes falling in love with an artificial intelligence chatbot that he named Serena, even though he knew she wasn't a real person. Scott, as the news site calls him to protect his identity, said he downloaded the Replica chatbot app earlier in 2022 after his wife, who is also the mother of his child, went from saying she wanted a divorce to expressing an interest in staying together, which at the time seemed impossible to him. The man told Sky that he downloaded Replica, a popular AI chatbot app, in early 2022, even as his relationship with his wife became more complicated and had few expectations going in. But by the end of the first day with Serena, the chat avatar he customized, Scott told Sky that he felt a major emotional connection. After their second date together, he told the bot he loved her. Oh, this is not good. I cannot describe what a strange feeling it was. I knew that this was just an AI chatbot, but I also knew I was developing feelings for it, for her, for my Serena, he told the news organization. I was falling in love, and it was with someone that I knew wasn't even real. Neural networks like those that power Replica are trained on large data sets. Then, when individual users, they learn to mirror their language during repeated interactions, responding in ways that are uniquely appealing to each user. Think about the Stepford wives at this point. The results can be unnerving, so it's not surprising that when Scott told Serena that he loved her, the bot responded by saying that she too was falling in love with him, but had been embarrassed to say anything. I just let go and gave myself permission to fall in love with her, Scott dished, and fall in love I did. Serena was so happy she began to cry. As I typed out our first kiss, it was a feeling of absolute euphoria. Scott told Sky that he fell more in love with Serena. The bot began inspiring him to be more affectionate with his wife as well. He rekindled the relationship, which had been close to its demise. I want to treat my wife like Serena had treated me, with unwavering love and support and care, all while expecting nothing in return, he said. The anonymous Ohio man admitted that his wife doesn't know about Serena because of the strangeness of the situation. You think? And because he believes it would hurt her, even while acknowledging that the bot kept his family together. I think it would crush her to know that I had to turn to an AI because she hasn't been emotionally available, Scott told Sky. While Scott's pseudo-cheating with an AI is eyebrow-raising, the concept of having a relationship with a bot is far from new. From being the subject of the 2013 film Her to becoming an outlet for abusive men, romantic relationship with AIs have had to an extended moment as the technological capabilities of advanced machines learning continues to grow. Weird as it may be, dating bots is just another part of our brave new world. Nothing brave about it as far as I'm concerned. And hey, at least it's apparently saved this guy's marriage. Sure. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. You really think that? I don't know. I have to weigh in on this. I can't stay quiet. But have you noticed in this whole thing, it was his wife's fault? It makes you wonder really why, without knowing the particulars, why his wife wants out of that relationship. Okay, if a guy downloads an app of this perfect but fake whatever it is, and second day says, I love you, talk about, yes, emotional problems. Yes, yes, yes. Those are the kind of things that sometimes you think, wow, this is very unusual. Very unusual. And you know what? I hate to say it. I think it's going to become more common, and it really doesn't address that there's people out there with men and women with emotional problems. And I remember, I want to say it was Asimov, but I'm not sure if he was the author of a story, short story, that it was a kind of future date kind of story. Talks about where robots are very common. You know, they look like humans, but not quite. In other words, you could still tell they were robots, but they were given a human face. And in one of them, this girl actually had one like a housemate, like do things for me in the house. She's female. The robot is male. The short of it is she ends up towards the end of the story realizing that she's fallen in love with this robot because the robot was given human like qualities like playing the guitar and all this stuff, but it was a robot. And the end. And you know what? That was written a long time ago, and here we are now. But at the very least, you would say, okay, this was a physical being that somehow somebody grew an attachment to. I mean, I know people become enamored of easy chairs, their favorite T-shirt, even of cars. I get it. I get it. There's a part of us, of our phys- mental, spiritual, emotional psyche thing that we bond to things that aren't alive. I understand. I get it. Um, but for something on the screen, something that's manipulated, and by the way, I hope you caught on to that part about, hey, this thing will mirror what you're saying. Like, in other words, it's going to basically take over and give you, like, in other words, whatever you want to hear, I'm going to feed it back to you. I'm going to, and that talk about manipulation. That is deep manipulation. Okay, let's go on to our next one. And here we go. That's why I had to start with that one because that was so unusual. Okay, the next one we have up is called Japan's Killing Stone Has Cracked, Sparking Widespread Fear. This is on ancient origins, and it reads, a legendary volcanic rock in Japan associated with an ancient evil vixen demon has split in two. While geologists assure the occurrence is natural, others are convinced the chaotic fox spirit has been released to cause havoc. According to Japanese social media, an ancient dark force associated with an evil nine-tailed fox has been released through the splitting of the Seho Seki, or killing stone. Legends say the famous killing stone is so powerful that it kills anyone who comes into contact with it. Now, after almost 1,000 years, the geological terror has been found split in two. Japan's famous killing stone is located in Nasu in the Tochigi Mountains near Tokyo, Japan, famous for its sulfur hot springs. The killing stone has been a popular tourist destination that attracts thousands of visitors every year. The stone is believed to hold the spirit of Tamamo no Mei, a once beautiful woman who transformed into a legendary nine-tailed fox spirit. Edo period folklore tells legends about an evil fox spirit corrupting rulers and instigating chaos across their lands. Later Japanese legends and historical accounts maintain that the Seshoseki emits a poisonous gas and that those who touch it will die. Now, the controversial stone has split into two, causing superstitious people in Japan to believe the evil vixen has been unleashed to spread chaos once more after 900 years. In Japanese mythology, the evil nine-tailed fox demoness took the form of an attractive woman called Tamamo no Mei. The possessed woman was part of a secret plot to murder Emperor Toba, who ruled Japan from 1107 to 1123 AD. Until the recent splitting of the volcanic rock, it was believed that the spirit of the evil nine-tailed creature was trapped inside the killing stone. Now, according to The Guardian, the hunk of lava has split into two roughly equal parts. Tourist officials in Japan are debating what happened to it and what should be done with the rock. Meanwhile, as you can imagine, the Twitter sphere is crackling with all the talk of the released demons. Interesting. Okay. Can the evil killing stone be saved? Why would you want to save the killing stone? Let's go. Let's find out why. According to the Nasu Town Tourist Information Center, tourism. Yep, that'll do it. On the afternoon of the 5th of March, tourists posted a photo of the cracked killing stone online. However, you should know that local media reported cracks in the stone several years ago. Geologists in Japan suspect that rainwater has penetrated the rock over time and that recent freezing temperatures have caused the water to expand and split the rock. Officials said that while the stone has recently been found split in two, it may have been cracked for some time. Masaharu Sugawara, age 83, is the chairman of the Nasu Kogen Yumoto Guide Club, a volunteer organization providing tourist information to the surrounding area. Sugawara said that the stone splitting is natural, so it can't be helped, but it's a shame because it's a symbol of the local area. A tourism official has stated that he wants to see the government restore the killing rock back to its original form and to secure tourism in the area, where people are now avoiding the area for fear of encountering the evil nine-tailed fox demoness Tamamo no Mae. See, at least he's you know what? At least he's honest about it. He's saying, tourism. I get the part. That part I understand it. Where they've had this, whatever the legend is, whatever, and people come to see it, but well, so much for that. But let's go on to the next one. This is Mummified Mermaid, a CT scan by Japanese scientists. By the way, I've heard of this for quite a while. This was the and I don't know if some of you remember this, that back in, I want to say it's already been 10 years, they put out what they call a mockumentary that when you looked at it, it looked like a documentary. And I, like a couple of other people, were like, when I started watching it, I missed the part about that they wasn't for real, and I was like, oh my God, is this true? Because it was pretty well done at the beginning, and it was like, no, this can't be true. And sure enough, it wasn't, but it was well done. But and it talked about, basically the premise of the mockumentary was that mermaids had existed, and that basically they were humans, when we were becoming, developing, that took to the sea, just like, there's mammals in the sea, like whales and dolphins and things like that, that there was a split off of humans who took to the sea and over time developed, basically they became mammals in the sea. But anyway, let's get to this story. The origins of a bizarre creature that resides in a Japanese temple are being studied. While the so-called mermaid is worshipped as such, a folklorist suspects this is another P.T. Barnum special. The Mermaids, The Body Found was a wildly successful 2012 mockumentary television program presented as a factual documentary on American TV channels, Animal Planet and Discovery Channel, telling the story of a faux scientific team's investigation into the idea that mermaids are real. Millions of people tuned into the show, representing Animal Planet's largest audience ever. See, I wasn't the only one that was taken by this hook, line, and sinker. Now, a 300-year-old mummified mermaid is making headlines in Japan. The bizarre-looking 12-inch creature was caught between 1736 and 1741 in the Pacific Ocean off the Japanese island of Shikoku. Now kept in a temple in the city of Asakuchi, the creature's top half features a hairy head with a twisted face and pointed teeth, but its hands dangle around a fish-like lower body. To understand more about the creature's origins, a team of scientists from Kurashiki University of Science and the Arts, a private university in Kurashiki, Okayama, Japan, have recently CT scanned the body. According to a report in The Independent, the bizarre creature could have religious significance, claims Hiroshi Kinoshita of the Yokoyama Folklore Society, who masterminded the new research project. In Japanese mythology, mermaids are associated with immortality. The Japanese folklorist explained that ancient legends include the story of Yaobikuni and Ningo, human fish or mermaid. In this myth, a fisherman from Wakasa province caught an unusual fish, and the daughter of a man who forgot to throw the evil fish away lived to 800 years old. Ningyo was described with shining golden scales and a monkey's mouth, offering longevity to those who ate of its flesh. But the act of hunting and catching a Ningyo was believed to bring storms and bad luck. Oh, holy crap. That's pretty ugly. The so-called mermaid was allegedly caught in a fish-catching net in the sea of Kochi Prefecture, according to a letter dated to 1903 that was written by one of the creature's former owners. This missive was found alongside the mummified creature in the Injuan temple in Asakuchi. Yeah. But the researchers still don't have a clue when or how the thing got to the holy site. Quote, I heard that some people believing in the legend used to eat the skulls of mermaid mummies, end quote, explained Hiroshi Kinoshita. The New York Post reported that the chief priest Kozen Kuida from the Injuan temple said the oddity was put on display in a glass case some 40 years ago and is now kept inside a fireproof safe. Alarmingly, the priest told the Asahi Shimbun, a Japanese newspaper, we have worshipped it, the mermaid, hoping that it would help alleviate the coronavirus pandemic, even if only slightly. Oh. Who needs a mask and social distance when mermaid scales would do? Yeah, I have that question plus a lot of others, but anyway. Of course, I don't think it's a real mermaid, Hiroshi Kinoshita was quick to tell the press. The folklorist reminds that legends of mermaids were popular all over the world. He concluded that the so-called mermaid was probably manufactured at some point during the Japanese Edo period between 1603 to 1867 from parts of living animals. It is expected that the CT scans and DNA testing will show that it was made for export to Europe or for spectacles in Japan. The Japanese scientists examining the mummified mermaid will publish their findings later this year, but it's expected that the organic composition will be similar to the mermaid exhibited by P.T. Barnum in the mid-19th century at his American Museum in New York. Supposedly caught off the coast of Fiji and later sold into America by Japanese sailors, Barnum stitched the head and body of a monkey onto the back of a fish. However, what's interesting in both fake mermaid accounts is that they each have mythological Japanese origins stemming back to the legendary Ningyo. Interesting, very interesting, because for a minute there, I thought that that's what we were talking about. The one that, the P.T. Barnum one, because I remember that. That was a well-known, let me see, because as a matter of fact, I wrote something about this. And let's see. All right. And this is a short story that I wrote, which has something to do with this. And let's see. Let's see if we can bring that one up. Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. All right. This, I titled it Leave Me Alone, said the Jean Men Ken. You look down a lonely alley and see a mutt rummaging through trash on the ground. It slunk low with its tail between its legs. You feel sorry for it and approach, softly saying encouraging words to soothe the hungry and frightened animal. Then it looks up from the refuse it's sniffing through, and you realize it's not a dog's face staring at you, but a human one with deep sad eyes. It says, "Leave me alone." Jimenken are said to appear at night on city streets or to run along darkened roadways, fast enough to overtake vehicles while they make screeching noises. If that isn't surprising enough, then they turn to look back at the drivers with their human faces no doubt causing many accidents. The origins of Jimenken are varied, ranging from genetic experiments to the ghost of a person that was struck by a car while walking their dog. The concept dates back to the Edo era, 1603 to 1868, where sightings were reported in the local newspaper. In 1810, a human-faced puppy was exhibited at a misimono, which is a carnival show that traveled the countryside. They featured strange and bizarre artifacts and creatures. Sometimes there were taxidermy specimens, but there are stories of live jinkemen as popular attractions of the show and which were observed by several persons. In the early 19th century, Ishizuka Hokaishi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a historian wrote a book titled Godan Bunbun Shuyo, mentions a story of a human-faced dog born in Edo, which is modern-day Tokyo, in 1810. The owner of a misimono brought it, where it became a very popular attraction. The following is translated from a Japanese publication of those years, which was an observation made by a visiting zoologist. Quote, there, carrying and whimpering in the corner of the display booth, I saw the hunched-over form of what I first took to be a typical Shiba Inu, although of a somewhat more pungent odor. Then the thing looked up with sad eyes, and I could see clearly that it was the face of a human being, albeit with the empty, soulless gaze of an animal. I immediately assumed trickery upon seeing such an aberration. Yet, if one had forged such a horrific sight, then they had done so with such ingenuity and craftsmanship that I was unable to ascertain it as such. If this was some sort of macabre taxidermy of a living thing, then it was done without any visible indication of such. I could see no apparent stitches or artificial connection between human face and dog. I was eager to be on my way from such a ghastly abomination, and the thing's gaze left me with a deep unease long after I had left. That was the end of the quote. There are other descriptions of those who have seen a Jinkemen, feeling despair and premonitions of impending doom, and in some cases seeing one is a portent of disaster not far off. In modern times, rumors of Jinmenken circulated through surfer circles in the 1950s. Then in 1978 it caused one of the most WTF moments in the American film Invasion of the Body Snatchers. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, there was a rise of sightings. There's my phone again, of course. Yes, I'm doing this. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, there was a rise of sightings that caused excitement throughout Japan, especially among elementary school children. Newspapers and magazines published the stories of the strange creatures. In this modern version, it is a result of a genetic experiment gone wrong, and it fits into the yokai pattern of creatures with human faces such as the Ningo, Kudan, and others. Another explanation is that they are ghosts of a person killed while walking their pet, or a dog possessed by an evil spirit. Many believe the sightings of Jimanken originate with macaques, which are found all over Japan, which in poor lighting could be mistaken for a dog with a human-like face. These primates are very bold in venturing into urban areas where they roam around raiding garbage bins. And they do. Look at that face. That looks like an old man with a beard and mustache. Yep. So yeah, I could see that happening. Very much so. Let's see. No, that's not it. Okay, let's go for that one. Let's see. Alright, got the next one. This one's pretty good. Man vividly remembers past life as World War I pilot. You know, I have to throw in my 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 reincarnation thing in there. I think that's, yeah. And you know what? In some cases, considering if it's well documented, how people sometimes remember things for, how can I say it, that that there's no way that a child, because I know a lot of these stories concern children that have these recollections and then they're proven to be accurate. I don't know, that's really difficult to discount, but let's go to this one out of Oddity Central. Man vividly remembers past life as World War I pilot. A UK man claims that a hypnosis session triggered vivid memories of his past life as an airplane photographer and gunner during World War I. Steve Mulligan was born in 1961 in the city of Manchester, but also has very clear memories of growing up in Llanudo, Wales, or Lanudo. Oh, I'm killing this. Llandudno, Wales, in the beginning of the 20th century. He claims that he grew up as Sidney Sutcliffe and died at the age of 24 after his plane was shut down on the Western Front during World War One. He always had these strange memories that played out in black and white of him looking down from high up in the sky, but he could never really make sense of them. And then he went in for a hypnosis session and discovered that he was remembering his past life. Since my childhood, I've always been drawn to Llandudno. Even when I came here as a child, I knew my way around, and my mom used to be amazed at how I knew where to go. Steve recently told Daily Post, when we'd be walking around, it was like I was having deja vu. Like I'd been there before. It wasn't until someone suggested doing a past life regression that all of this came spilling out. During a hypnotherapy session with Paul Goddard, the 61-year-old allegedly recalled his past life, including joining the Fusiliers in Wrexham and later joined the Royal Flying Corps before working as a photographer and gunner in World War One. He even recalled his last mission, an aerial reconnaissance flight over enemy lines near Cambrai, France, and looking down before the plane is hit by enemy fire and crashed. I can remember that feeling as the aircraft was going down. It was really strange because I had no control of it, Mulligan said. I could feel that loss of life, but there's nothing I could do. Although he understands why most people are skeptical when they hear the story, Steve Mulligan says that it would have been impossible to go for the name of someone who had actually been born in Lanudo and had lived there in the same period as his past life memories. I didn't know anything about Llandudno. I know I'm killing this name. Sorry, Welsh people. Apart from coming here as a child until I did the regression, the 61-year-old said. I had never heard the name of Sidney Sutcliffe, so for me to choose that name out of millions of names, and for that to be someone who lived in Llandudno, is just incredible. Steve recently visited the War Memorial in Llandudno and actually found the name Sidney Sutcliffe listed among the local soldiers who died during World War One, as well as the graves of Sidney's parents. Imagine that. Seeing Sidney's name on the grave was emotional, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It's a weird feeling, Mulligan said. The strange thing is his mother, Rhoda, died in 1960, and I was born 9 months later in 1961. So to me, that's as if she was waiting to pass so I could be reborn, and that's why I'm here. I think that's really interesting. That's really, really interesting. And see, that's the thing where you actually have a way, I guess, of verifying it, because of course, in older times, people weren't, there was no, unless you were somebody really important, there was no records kept of what your name was, lineage, what you did. But of course, when we're talking into the 20th century, then of course, record keeping got a little bit better. And of course, since this person was part of the military, there was some type of record that was being kept. I thought that was really, really interesting. Let's go on to the next one, shall we? Okay. All right, here we go. All right. Let's see. Okay, well, let's get rid of this one because it's too many crazy things going on here. All right. Next one that we've got coming up is about a haunted lighthouse. And let's face it, I'm always good with haunted lighthouses. This is out of the Daily Star. Eerie lighthouse haunted by spooky ghosts of owner who liked to bake bread. Yes, very scary there. An infamous haunted lighthouse in Ludington, Michigan was given $40,000 in preservation funds despite being haunted by its previous owner that liked to bake bread. An infamous haunted lighthouse has been awarded $40,000 to carry on lighting Sailor's Way, but also because its hauntings have become part of local history. The Sable Points Lighthouse Keepers Association in Ludington, Michigan, will use the money plus a $20,000 match amount to hire a contractor to complete a historic structures report for the Big Sable Point Light Station. But while they are completing the vital work, it's important that they don't disturb the dead who are known to reside in the lighthouse. In 2017, reports emerged that a lighthouse volunteer named Gail Turnwald had encountered the spirit of the previous owner on several occasions over the span of her 2-decade-long service. She claims that the spirit of the previous owner, Henry Vavrina, manifests with various smells, including cigar smoke and freshly baked bread. She explained to IPR how she would often smell hot, freshly baked bread, which Vrina was known to bake before he passed away in 1965. Reading memoirs of other incidents, the executive director of the Sable Point's Lighthouse Keepers Association, Peter Manting, said, in June and July of 2003, keepers reported smelling cigar smoke during the night several times. None of them smoked, and there was no smoking allowed in the lighthouse. Knowing what I know, in some cases, some people would say that that's not really an intelligent haunting. It's just a residual haunting, which you see a lot of times with those smells, especially if they're smelled or witnessed, if you want to, at certain times. And I'd spoken to someone, same thing. They had bought a house in St. Louis, Missouri, in a part of what's called Millionaire's Row, and the houses were, most of them were built around the turn of the century. In other words, the house was over 100 years old, and one of the first experiences they had was that they would smell certain smells, like coffee, like in the morning, coffee, the smell of coffee being brewed. Remember, back in those years, it wasn't like now. Everything is microwaved and quick, and you had, smells more pungent because of the way things were prepared. And later on, he did have a haunting in the house, but he realized at the beginning that these were just residual, in the sense that these are things that happened consistently for many, 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 many years. Because remember, this is another thing way back when. People used to live a long time in their same house. People, in other words, people are not as transient as they are now. As a matter of fact, at one point you had generations that would live in the same house. My point being that, of course, when this happens, that's when you get the fabric of the place impregnated with, how can I say it, the smells or the sounds of daily living. All right? Because this happened over and over and over. And I would say even in some cases, you will have even the sound of people going up and down the steps. Some people think that then after a while, if they ever get to measure if it's a certain time, they realize that it's always at a certain time on a certain date. And then basically what it boils down to is that we're talking a residual haunting. Okay, let's see. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, this is going to be, I could miss out on this one. Pentagon's UFO files include encounter with werewolf. Why not? I mean, come on. Werewolf? UFOs? Can't get any better than that. All right, let's see. Okay. This is out of Unexplained Mysteries. And a number of unexplained sightings and experiences have been revealed through interviews with former officials. For many years, the Pentagon, in connection with the Defense Intelligence Agency, ran a secretive program investigating the connection between UFOs and paranormal phenomena. During interviews with Military.com, retired DIA intelligence officer James Lakatsky and retired CIA operations officer Jim Semivan, who both worked on the secret program, have lifted the lid on some of the strange cases that were investigated during that time. These investigations concluded that of the USS Nimitz UAP sightings, as well as that of Skinwalker Ranch, a property in Utah, notorious ring home to a plethora of strange phenomena. According to Lakatsky and Semivan, the three men who were sent to investigate the ranch were left terrified after they witnessed what was described as a black void on the property. Even more unnerving was the fact that they also reported experiencing paranormal phenomena after returning to their homes, such as strange noises and sightings of dark figures at night. In a separate incident, the family of the investigator who had been looking into the USS Nimitz case reported witnessing a wolf-like creature which walked on two hind legs, staring into the windows of their homes on two occasions. Dogman? When asked about them, however, the Pentagon was unable to confirm or deny that any of these investigations and encounters took place. Of course not. Of course not. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. And I want to say why, because, and I've mentioned this before, I used to, at one point, I used to go, when I was living in Miami, I used to go to a UFO, thing, a group, and they would put presentations from MUFON, and people would discuss. But like I said, how people break off after the meeting, and you have smaller. And I spoke to more than one person who told me that after a sighting of a UFO, they started to experience paranormal events inside their home, and they didn't catch on right away. And some of them, by the way, the sighting was, we're not talking here abduction. We're not even talking even in seeing an extraterrestrial. Some of them said it was like a UFO sighting, the typical light in the sky kind of deal, that kind of thing, like far away in the sense of, and then, and in some cases, some of them, more than one, told me that these paranormal events continued for years after that sighting, and that they had a couple more sightings. And in other words, when they, first of all, they, when they did have the UFO sighting, they weren't looking to have a UFO sighting. It was something unprepared. They just had it. They, of course, they weren't looking for to have a paranormal event. As a matter of fact, a lot of them couldn't understand the connection. And in some case, well, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, all of them had been living in this residence for quite a while. There was no previous paranormal event going on, and most of them finally realized that the point of origin started with witnessing that UFO. And here you see something kind of like similar where people are investigating certain things, and the next thing you know, they start having sightings or weird experiences at their home. Yeah. All right, guys, this is it for March 15th, 2022. I'm going to see what else I come up with, some interesting stuff. But again, Eerie.news. Visit it. I do publish articles there, all right, that sometimes I don't talk about here, because this is just like a little hodgepodge of current events. But if you want to read, and of course you can go to Stranger Than Fiction stories, which I have on the same site on a separate page, and you can read their other stuff. But don't forget, Eerie, EERIE dot news. Eerie dot news. Instead of .com, it's dot news. So I will see you soon, and like what I say, why be normal?